guys, welcome to the channel. So today decided that I'll just record for you how to ride a bike. It's not the hardest thing in the world, so if you're coming back from riding a bicycle or something, then it's going to be pretty straightforward. You just got to kind of know about certain controls and stuff. So yeah, we're going to be using my Indian Scout Bobber. She's a beauty, as you can see, but a little bit dirty, which is fine, I guess, for now. But yeah, anyways, we're going to be using that. If you guys got, looking interested in sport bikes, ATVs, whatever, yada yada, then obviously there'll be maybe slight differences, but honestly they're all the same. So whatever I'm going to be covering over here translates very well to the bike that you're going to be interested in. You can see autumn season, everything's falling, all the leaves are falling, all the stuff are dying. That's whatever, part of the season. So you might be wondering, why am I recording now rather than the springtime? Simple. If you guys want to be able to get your licenses in the springtime, then this would be a perfect time to use your time within the winter to be able to watch my video and some other people's videos and actually get to learn how to ride a motorcycle while you're indoors, staying away from the freezing cold weather that we have over here. Anyways, I'm getting a little bit depressing talking about winter. Anyways, so yeah, with that, we'll get started and teach you guys how to ride this. So what is a motorcycle? You see, a motorcycle is the two-wheel vehicle that I'm joking. I'm not gonna do that. Okay, it doesn't really make any sense. If you're watching this video, it's because you already know what a motorcycle is, you're looking to get one, or you already have one maybe, and you're just looking to get your license and learn how to ride. Well, and if you know how to ride and you're still watching, then I don't know what you're doing here, but thanks for the view, I guess. I don't know, you do you. And if you haven't subscribed yet, then I don't know, you do you as well, right? So alright, so let's get this thing started. Alright guys, so I know this seems like a joke, and all in honesty, I've seen people mess this up, but I'm going to go over it because it's apparently important, but it's how to get on your motorcycle. I know it sounds stupid, but I've really seen people mess up this part. I don't understand. So literally what you need to do first is, here's your kickstand. It's usually on the left side of your bike, and you just gotta make sure it's firmly in place. If I shake this thing, it's not going anywhere, right? So as you can see, it's not really going anywhere. So where people mess this up is it's kind of on a not on the right incline, and it just kind of slightly in place but not really fully in place, and when they get on their motorcycle, they're not expecting it to move and it falls down, and mayhem occurs, right? So what you want to make sure is that kickstand is in the right place. Also note, right now we're on really steady floor, but sometimes you may stop on cement or sand or whatever, gravel. If you live in a city like mine where there's construction everywhere, then you might have to park in a place where you got construction dust or whatever you call it anyways, right? So just got to always make sure your kickstand is in place. All right, now here comes what should be the easiest part, but like I said, people still screw this up. You want to make sure you're coming on or getting on your bike from the left side, right? On other bikes, when you try to get on from the right side, as you can see, it's a little bit more of a further height distance. So you just want to always get on the side where your kickstand is. Now, if I do this and I try to get on, there's a chance that I could tip it over there, right? But if I'm trying to get on the motorcycle from this side, guess what? I have the kickstand supporting me and everything. It should be able to support me when I'm getting on, right? So what I do is, when I'm getting on my motorcycle, is left foot on the floor. I use the left handlebar to support and balance myself, and with my right foot, just lift it over the seat, and then boom. Again, very simple to 90% of you, but that 10% is gonna mess this up, so whatever. So hopefully that's important, and then you guys will get this straight. So just be careful, don't kick your bike, or make sure your kickstands are down, right? Alright, so something important that I also missed, when you're, getting on your bike or even getting off of it, you got to make sure that when you're setting the kickstand, the best thing to do is always do it when you're sitting down. So as you can see, when I'm sitting down, using my left foot, putting it on, and there you go. So you got to just make sure doing that. I mean, you could technically do this while you're standing, but it's not. I wouldn't highly recommend it, just in case you mess it up. So one thing I note to note, I should say. Now, if you're a regular size person and you got like a regular size bike, getting on your bike would be pretty easy. But sometimes, you know, you may be a short person and you got a tall bike. I don't know. Everyone's got their preferences, right? So you might have to do some gymnastics when you're getting on there. You might have to like step on the kickstand and then like get on the bike like this kind of thing, right? So, I mean, figure it out, play around with it. Obviously, do it safely when you're doing it. So just to make sure. But I mean, if you want to practice it, getting on the bike, make it like second nature, sure. I mean, you could do that, but you'll have plenty of time for that as well later. But if you're definitely a short person, you want to make sure that you are practicing carefully how to get on your bike, especially if it's a little bit difficult to get on it. Alright guys, so you should be firmly seated in your seat on your motorcycle if you already have one. Now the next important thing, and the most important thing really to learning how to ride, is understanding your brakes. You'll eventually get going and all that stuff, but I think a lot of people underestimate our brakes, and getting your brakes right will really make you that much of a better driver, right? Or even rider. It doesn't really matter whether you're driving a car or motorcycle, right? It's just general practice, right? So on your motorcycle, you'll have two brakes, and I mean, I hope you have two brakes, so else you know what happened. Anyways, so the first brake is going to be your front brakes for your front tire. That's going to be located over here on this side, and then your other brakes for your rear tire is going to be on this side, and that's right on your peg over here. And as you can see, my foot's just pressing down on it. It's very simple. Now, key thing to note on a motorcycle, because you know it's much lighter than a car. If you use all of your brakes, and I'm talking about full clutch, grip in, everything, you're gonna send yourself flying forward, especially when you're already moving. So one thing that you need to always be able to do is you gotta always gradually, come to a stop, not full on it, or else the thing will the stopping power on motorcycles it's very, very high. You can stop in no time, but the problem is you stop in no time, you in terms of the person will end up flying off your bike. And as you can see, and let me just demonstrate this very quickly. If I try moving, as you can see, it's not going anywhere, no matter how much I try to move it, right? That front brake is very, very strong, but surprisingly, your rear brakes is not that strong. Like, as you can see, like, if I try moving, well, I don't know how I'm going to do this while standing. Yeah, see? I was able to move it. But, again, just always gradually apply pressure on your brakes. You don't want to do full power from the get-go. And just practice that. Understand where it seems to be the most pressure is going to be, or, where your most pressure your brakes are going to be on your tires. And so once you understand that, I think really everything else will be easy. Alright guys, so we just covered the brakes. The next important thing is your clutch and your shifter. So what is a clutch and what is a shifter? In a sense, basically what it does is it allows you to change your gears. Now on motorcycles, it's considered like a manual vehicle, and you have to change your gears in order to move your vehicle. And right, for cars, majority of them are automatic, so they are changing the gears for you. You may not even realize it. Unless you have a manual car, then you're changing your gears yourself, right? So yeah, we're just going to cover this. So clutch, this is the thing that allows you to engage your gear. And as you can see, you just pull it in. Now this one, there's like certain levels of like modulation that you need to understand, and you'll understand this when you're on your bike, or if you're already on it, you can give it a try, right? And then on your shifter, to be able to go up, you put your foot underneath the peg and just press up, and then to shift back down, you just press down on it. Now obviously you need to do this in modulation with your clutch, right? So whenever you need to shift, you press down while still engaging it. You can see I'm holding it, and then shift up, right? And that's basically it in terms of how to do that. Now we'll talk about actually like how to shift properly into like first gear, second gear, third gear. But it's important to know, just if you want to practice this at home, you can do this from the comfort of your garage or whatever you have your motorcycle stored in. You just basically, until you just keep doing this until like it's second nature. Just up, down, up, down, up, down, up. I mean, it's just simple as that. Like if you keep doing it, it becomes second nature. Like when I'm riding around, I don't even realize I'm changing gears even at this point. Right, so we just covered the clutch and the shifter and how you have to use them in tandem to be able to, you know, move the bike. So now we're gonna talk about the thing that actually helps you move the bike and give it gas, is the throttle. And the throttle generally is on your right side of your motorcycle's handlebars. As you can see, like left doesn't do anything. I don't know why. I thought the left, I don't know, anyways, whatever. The left doesn't do anything, as you can see. Like I'm trying to move it, doesn't go anywhere or whatever. But this one, as you can see, when I move it, like you can see it. Not sure, I'll zoom in, but look, you can see it's moving, right? Anyways, yeah, so the more you pull on it, the faster you go. But obviously don't rip it all the way, because, you know, same with this thing, as it breaks, you'll just end up flying off your bike. Alright? If you're not used to it, that is. Or if you got a slow bike. Anyways, whatever. No judging. So yeah, you want to ensure that when you're moving, that you give it gradual gas. That's basically it, just giving it gradual gas until like it doesn't really go as faster. So that's when you use the clutch. Anyways, I'll cover that bit. But yeah, that's your throttle, not your clutch, your throttle. All right, guys. So we covered the brakes, we covered our clutch and our shifter, and we covered the kickstand. So the next important thing is actually starting your bike. Now there's 3 parts to starting a bike. For those who drive a car, you only know there's like really 2 parts, right? Putting your key in the ignition and then turning the ignition on. Well, for the bike, you got 3 parts. So the first one is your ignition. Your ignition would be, well, for most bikes, right, it'll be in the center here, somewhere under the cluster. My bike's a little different. Maybe it's because it's a cruiser. The ignition's on this side, so you might see your electronics come on your clusters. Certain things like your ABS or whatever will come on. The next piece is this little switch here. We call it the kill switch. For some reason, I can't remember the name. I know there's a better name than that. I'll post it there or wherever on the video when I remember it. But usually it's in the off position. You'll need to flip it to the on in order to be able to start your bike up, right? So we do that. Not sure if you're able to hear that, but you can hear the motorcycle in a sense come on, but it's not yet in, ready to go. So, and that is the last button. So this last button over here is the actual ignition button. You just kind of press it for maybe like almost less than half a second, and then you'll hear the bike come on. So we're just gonna do that right now. And that's it. And you can hear the bike come on in the background, I hope. And that's basically it. So first thing first, just to note some things, guys. As you can see, the motorcycle is in neutral. And why I'm mentioning this is because, as you saw, when I was in neutral, the bike just turned on. It didn't start like try to go anywhere if I wasn't actually in gears 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or whatever gear, right? Second thing is your kickstand. Now most motorcycles, and it depends on which ones you have. If the kickstand is up like this, your motorcycle won't actually turn on. Mine, I don't know if it has that feature, but so far I've always been able to turn it on with the kickstand down. So just certain things you want to play around with that. So if it doesn't start, so don't panic if your motorcycle doesn't start. It might just be that you're either like not in neutral or your kickstand is down. Just make sure one of those 2 things. That seems to be the more popular things. Alright guys, so we just covered the starting your bike using the ignition plus the kill switch and the actual ignition starting button thingy mobile. So next thing is gears. Now this is kind of, we're going to go back to focusing on the clutch and our shifter, and we're going to understand what the gears do on a motorcycle. Alright, so on most motorcycles we have about 6 gears plus a neutral, as you can see here at the end, right? Some beginner starting friendly bikes with low CCs, they'll have maybe 5 gears plus the neutral, but majority will have about 6 gears. So as I mentioned during our clutch and shifter portion, to be able to shift gears, you pull in your clutch, and we just shift down, 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 I say. And sometimes, as you can see, it's a little difficult trying to find, get into one from neutral. And then, as you can see, it's in one. And then when I let go of the clutch and I try to move the motorcycle using my legs, as you can see, it's not really going anywhere. Like, it kind of just rocks it back and forth, but it's not really gonna go backwards or forward, right? But when I find neutral, okay, there's neutral. Sometimes it's hard finding neutral. I'll tell you guys, when you're standing still. Easy when you're moving, but and then as you can see, I can actually walk the bike in neutral. As you can see, I'm very easily. Like, I'm not really doing much, no hands even, right? So that's the important thing. When you're in neutral, the bike's actually be able to freely move because you're not really in gear, and that's why they say in gear. But anyways, so when you're, like, say for example at a red light, and you can trust your city drivers, and you put into neutral, and then you can just rest your hands, as you can, like, right, in a sense, the bike won't really go anywhere. But if you were in first gear, first gear. I'm telling you, sometimes it's like getting out of neutral or getting into neutral, the pain in the butt. When you're first gear, as you can see, the bike's not gonna go, it doesn't really go anywhere, and I'll demonstrate why. The important thing is, I'll just get the bike started for you guys. Alright. As you can see, so now the bike is started. And as you can see, when I'm in neutral, the bike stays on. It's not doing anything, it's not going anywhere, I can still move it or whatever under my own power. But the moment I shift into first gear, and first gear is down, right? And if I let go of the clutch, as you can see, it lunged forward, right? And that's because the bike is expecting it to go somewhere, but I didn't give it any gas. So that's what happens, right? So I hope you understand the difference between when we're in neutral and first gear. When you're in neutral, the bike doesn't want to go anywhere. When you're first gear, the bike wants to go somewhere. All right. Now, as I mentioned, to shift gears, you go down, to shift up, you put your foot, obviously you engage your clutch, and then you shift up by putting your foot under the peg and then pushing up. And then when you want to shift down, again, see, clutch is in, and I'm having trouble again. There we go. It's in first gear. So now, important thing to note, first gear, this is the order on motorcycles, right? You have first gear, and then second gear, third gear, fourth gear, fifth gear, sixth gear, yada yada, right? But the important thing to note is neutral. Neutral is like segmented in between your first and your second, so it's like a little in between step, and it doesn't take too much to like get into it. So it's like an in between, but like when you're riding, it's like you just kind of give it like your regular shift up to get into your second gear, and then when you're trying to go into neutral, it's like a light tap to go back down from second. So I'm gonna see if I can demonstrate this for you guys. It's kind of hard when you're standing still, but let's give it a try. So right now we're in first gear, as you can see on the cluster. And so in order to go to second gear, I'm gonna shift up hard. As you can see, it went into second. And if I want to go back to first gear, right, we're just gonna, again, clutch is engaged, and we're gonna shift down hard, as you can see, and now we're in first gear. All right, man, this is the thing. As you remember, from first gear to go to second gear, I shift up. Now I'm gonna do like a half click up to go into neutral from first gear. As you can see, I went into neutral. So it's a little bit weird. You could still make this mistake. Honestly, I've been riding for a while, and I still make that same mistake of going into neutral rather than second gear, and then, yeah, that's what happens. And you have to do this sort of Michael Jackson dance kind of thing every single time, as you can see, like that. So, yeah, that's your gears, how to use which gears, be in which gears, and whatever, and all that stuff, and yada yada. We just covered how to like shift gears. Hopefully at this point, like you'll be able, if you have a bike that is, you'll be able to practice going into first gear from neutral, and then from first gear into neutral again, or first gear into second gear, and then from second gear into back. Once that becomes proper, then we'll move into finding the friction zone. The friction zone is like what we call the sweet spot when you're changing gears, right? When you're at the friction zone, if you have it right at the friction zone in a sense, so pretend, you know, this is where the resting position is for the clutch, and this is like full, you know, full send, whatever, right? You have the clutch engaged all the way. It's like somewhere in between the middle, between start to finish in a sense, right? And then when you're in that little like sweet spot, if you have it and over there, like in a sense at that middle sweet spot, you should be able to shift into any gears, whether you have it at the sweet spot or all the way fully engaged, right? If you have anything beyond that, the bike could either stall or it won't let you shift, right? So now at this part, I mean, it's gonna be hard to show on the video because every bike's, you know, friction zone is a little different, but it's essentially the same thing. So in a sense, like I was mentioning before, and I'll just kind of stand while showing you this, right? This is like my resting position of the clutch, and if I pull it in, like it should be somewhere around over here, right? And then if I pull it all the way in, you can always, you know, change gears while like in this position as well. But obviously, like, you know, once you get good at this, you can kind of always like, you know, feel it out and then actually be able to change gears. And that should be it. So if you, and the way to practice this, there's gonna be two methods I'll be able to show you. All right. So first thing first, we're in neutral. The bike won't go anywhere until we do that. So to shift, remember, this is from the lesson before this. You wanna pull the clutch in with your left foot, shift down, and as you see, it's in first gear. Now, understanding the sweet spot. So as you can see, when I shifted into first gear, I haven't let go of the clutch, because if I let go of the clutch, as you can see, the bike stalls. And that's because, like I was saying before, the bike will want to go into like start moving, right? The bike wants to go somewhere. So it wants the power and in a sense the gas. So we're gonna start this again. I'm just gonna have to do this. There we go. So understanding our friction zone, right? The easy way to do this, right? Always have your bike into first gear, and then, you know, you have your clutch already always engaged in. And now, as you can see, it's the part where you don't want to kill the bike in terms of like having it die on you, and in between that is like where it like wants to start moving. So as you can see, I have like the clutch in, and the bike is not going anywhere as long as I have the clutch in. But the moment I start like releasing it, watch, you can hear the revs are going, and the bike is moving by itself. I'm not moving it. Like it's going somewhere. See? Like I'm not doing this. Like it's not like I'm not using my feet, right? It wants to go somewhere. And that's because the bike is like, in a sense, like gears are moving or whatever, right? So it'll want to kind of feed it. And in a sense, I can take off on it, on just like coasting. So like if I were to demonstrate this right now, there you go. Like I'm moving the bike. Like here, I'm not giving it gas. Like the bike is going. Because at this point it has enough, in a sense, momentum and gas that it could just kind of go by itself, as you can see, right? Like at this point, I can let go of it. Like it has enough gas, it's going on itself and everything. So I'm not doing anything. I'm not even using the gas, right? So once you be able to find the friction zone, like you can literally take off on no gas alone, right? But it's important to understand, like when you do find it, like you can see, like I'm in the friction zone, and you can see like the gears are kind of like throttle. You can hear it, right? And then I can move the bike back with my feet, and then to try to find it again. So I found it, and you can see the bike is moving again. And then I pull the clutch in, so I can move it back with my feet. And you can just keep practicing this until you become comfortable with it. Like I don't really need to look at the clutch while doing this. Like I can be looking over here, the bike is moving, right? And then I move it back with my feet. And you just keep doing this. Practice this until it becomes like second nature, right? Like you're looking at the sky, see that person on the balcony looking down at me. I don't know, like probably trying to learn how to ride a motorcycle as well, maybe, I don't know, right? And look, I'm just doing that. As simple as that. And then just, I'm in the friction zone now. And again, simple as that. All right? And you can keep on practicing this, and until it becomes perfect. And simple as that. Once you be able to do that, you should be able, in a sense, you should be able to, like I was saying before, be able to just, I'm not using the gas, like it's still the same thing. As you can see, look, I'm no gas, nothing, because at that point it has enough momentum in to be able to keep going on itself. So like that's it. I'm not using anything on it. And if I pull the clutch in, you can see I pull the clutch in, it's slowly moving, stopping by itself. Like again, no gas. And then in a sense, if I put, find the friction zone again, it starts moving by itself again. See that? So once you be able to actually perfect that, you should be able to just like be able to get comfortable with finding the friction zone and technically just be able to move your bike on its own using just the clutch. And I'll teach you guys a key trick of where this comes in handy. Now, say you're like going through a neighborhood at night, right? And you don't want to disturb the neighbors by revving the engine. You can just use this little trick of using the clutch to get out of the neighborhood. It is like pretty cool. Like your bike still makes noise, but not as loud when you're using it with the throttle, right? Because it's gonna rev up and everything. But yeah, that's a little trick. If you start perfecting that, you can use that whenever you just want to like leave your neighborhood quietly. So it's a little bit of a tips and tricks there. All right, guys. So that once you find the friction zone 99.9% of the time, like sanitizer, you should be good at it. And the reason why I say 99.9% is because no matter how comfortable you get with it, believe me, you're going to stall your bike. That's just what it is. That's the life of a motorcycle, right? I mean, and well, even if you have a manual car, it's the same thing as well. So yeah, what we're gonna do now is we're gonna mix in some throttle in there, right? Because you're not gonna travel everywhere like with 10 kilometers per hour, right? Or do you? Like, I don't know. Maybe everyone's different, right? So whatever, you do you. All right. So first thing first, we're gonna get the bike started. All right. The bike is started. We're in first gear, and again, we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna find our friction zone. All right. And you can see the bike is starting, and then once you see the bike is like moving comfortably, we're gonna just roll on the throttle, and you can hear the bike kind of go, right, in a sense. And we can hold that gear, like if we hold the throttle, like I'm slightly moving it, right, and you can hear the bike will go. So at that point, it's like pretty straightforward. So I'm gonna demonstrate this again very quickly. And then when and this important thing here is, if you hold the clutch in, you go slower, right? And you let the clutch go, the bike's starting to go faster, you can hear the engine going, and when you pull the clutch in, the bike's starting to slow down. So it's as very simple as that, but I'm gonna go over it in a kind of step-by-step this time. So again, we're gonna, engage the clutch to the point where it gets to the friction zone, and you can see the bike is moving now. And then to go faster, we're just gonna roll the throttle, right? And then when you have enough gas, you can let go of your clutch and just use your throttle to hold your speed. Just like that. And then when we want to slow down, obviously use your mixture of your brakes and clutch. And then when you want to start, right? There you go. Like just like that. Now if you want to start again, right? Clutch is going. Give it some gas with the throttle. Let go of your clutch. And just keep repeating that. Clutch in, brakes. Right? Just like that. And we'll do this again. So find the friction zone. Give it some gas. And when you have enough gas, clutch. And then clutch in, brake. And just keep repeating that same thing, step by step, every single time. So we're going to do this one more time, right? So we're going to go engage our clutch to the point where we find the friction zone. The bike's starting to move on its own, so we give it some gas, as you can see, and then release our clutch when we have enough gas, and then we want to brake, pull the clutch in, and brakes at the same time. All right, guys. All right, so we just covered how to mix in your throttle with your clutch, right? Once you're able to find the friction zone, you give it a little bit of gas, and then let go of your clutch slowly and hold your throttle, or give it more gas if you want to go faster. And you just practice that mixed in with clutch and brakes to come to a stop. Now, there's so much you can do on being in first gear, so you eventually will need to get into second gear. And the way you do that, again, like I was demonstrating in our gear section, is you pull the clutch in, and then you just shift up into second. And as you can see, it went to second, right? So I'm just gonna push this back down into first. And sometimes when you find that it's not hard to get into, you might want to move your bike like backwards or forward while shifting into whatever gear you need to. When you're standing still, it's a lot. Anyway, it's a lot easier when you're moving. So again, we're just gonna demonstrate this. We're gonna go into pull the clutch in while riding, and then shift up. Important thing to note, guys, before I do this is don't look down, because if you look down, you're gonna go down. So try to do this if you can, while looking forward, or not only looking forward, where you want to go. All right, it's important to do that. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna again make sure we're in first gear. All right, we're gonna start this again. Keys, flip your kill switch, and you have power. All right, so we're gonna do the same thing again in our previous lesson. Engage our clutch to the point where we find the friction zone. The bike's starting to move. Give it some gas. All right, and now we're moving, and we can let go of our clutch. Now, as I mentioned, there's only so much you can do in first gear, so you want to be able to eventually shift into second gear. So what you do is clutch in, and then shift up. And now we're in second gear. Simple as that. It's as simple as that. So we're going to demonstrate this one more time. We're going to come to a stop. Alright. Just wanted to clear the way here for our gentleman. And let's position this properly. We're just going to position this properly. So, okay. Alright. So we're going to do the same thing again. Engage our clutch to a point where it's a friction zone. Give it some gas. And the bike is going, let go of the clutch, and now we're in first gear. Now we want to go into second gear, clutch in, and then shift up. Simple as that. And just repeat that. If you now the opposite is true. If you want to shift down, clutch, and push down. That's it. Simple as that. And then if you want to go back into second gear, clutch, shift up, shift down, clutch, shift down. Simple as that. You just keep repeating that. You can do that if you're comfortable like doing this like in a circle. Like you can continue doing that. So again, shift up to second gear, clutch, and then shift up, and then let go. Slowly, obviously. Don't just dump the clutch. And then you're gonna shift down, clutch, second. And you might notice the bike will shake. And that's because you might not be giving enough gas at that time. Don't get scared. Just pull in the clutch and be able to do it in controlled. And then yeah, just continue doing that. Eventually you can do that for the other gears, and then eventually you'll be riding. For each part of the pieces in the video, practice them to almost perfection at least. You should be able to eventually ride your bike, and then as the time passes by, you'll eventually get better at it, and you'll be a full-fledged biker at that point, or motorcyclist, whatever you want to use, right? So some things to take note of. If you are really considering on how to ride a bike, what I would say is not only watch my video, there's some other videos that you can watch on the YouTubes, and that way you can actually understand how they demonstrate certain parts that maybe I didn't cover very well. Second thing is, I highly recommend you to get into like one of the motorcycle education courses where they actually teach you in detail and in lesson. Those things are really good. They'll be able to teach you a little bit of bits and tricks and stuff like that to be able to become a better driver, or a biker, I should say. Now, some other things that you can do, even if you already know how to ride a motorcycle, check out some how-tos to be able to like perfect your motorcycling. For example, there's one YouTuber that I watch. His name is Dan the Fireman. When I was learning, I was watching a whole ton of his videos to be able to actually understand how to do certain things. and this is before, this is even now. Like I eventually, sometimes will go to his channel and watch certain stuff, and he's got some really good content. That should basically be it. If there's anything that I didn't, like if I missed something, like I didn't explain something properly, just ask it in the comments below. I should be able to answer it. If there's certain things that you want me to cover in detail, just let me know as well. Maybe I'll make it into a video. And then yeah, that should be it. Catch you guys later.